Once again, it's on. You know what it's time for. It's time to play some toss. Welcome everyone to episode 38 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. It is your main man, friendly neighborhood T-Square, Tristain Thomas, back from vacay. So glad you could join us. Let's get right into the state of the state because we have some news. Now, last night I received a text from a certain someone asking if I had recorded the program yet. No, I haven't recorded it yet. I just had a feeling in my gut like something was afoot. And they said, you may possibly be right. Hold off on recording so you can get this in your show. There's a piece of news that's definite and a piece of news that is possible but closing in on being definite. So who are we talking about on State of the State currently? We're talking about the Green Bay Packers, and Aaron Rodgers is essentially going to be a Packer for life. That was the piece of definite news that was tipped off to last night. Weeks ago, I said on this program that Aaron Rodgers would be fine. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers would be fine. The contract would get done. It was a matter of language. It was a matter of structure. But they're closer than most people even realize. And that came through and finished off today. Aaron Rodgers will sign a 4-year, $134 million extension. 4 years, $134 million extension. He will get a $57.5 million signing bonus, which is an NFL record. He will get $67 million before the end of this calendar year. He will have earned $80 million before St. Patrick's Day. He will also get $103 million guaranteed. $103 million guaranteed. You couple that with the last 2 years that he had remaining on the contract he signed back in 2013, and you now have the richest contract in NFL history. And it goes to one of the all-time greatest quarterbacks and simply the best player in the NFL today. There's all sorts of sports personalities going off. I mean, he secured the bag. Odell Beckham secured the bag a few days before that. Congratulations to him. We all figured he would get paid, but Aaron Rodgers definitely secured that bag. This is definitely a contract worthy of the best player in football. This is a contract worthy of the best player in football. One of the great quarterbacks of all time, Aaron Rodgers. And now he's going to be essentially a Packer for life. He's got 6 years total. If you count this 4-year extension, when it's all said and done, he can earn anywhere between $176 to $180 million over the course of this extension. I mean, this is insane. This is insane money. I can't fathom earning that type of money. But when you are the best at your craft, the best at what you do, you keep your head down, you keep working hard, you keep producing, things will work out. And that is what I try telling people. Look, they're closer than you think. This man is not going to hit free agency. This man is not going to go this season without a contract, or at least an extension. He's going to be taken care of. The Green Bay Packers will take care of him. And I said this for weeks on this program on Home Court Sports, which you can watch on Facebook Live Wednesdays, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, myself and Professor P. I've said it there multiple times. Aaron Rodgers will be fine. The Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers will be fine. They'll come to a contract agreement. He's not going to hit free agency. There's no sour grapes amongst them. They're very much in harmony. And here you go. 4 years, $134 million. This deal also frees up some cap space for the Green Bay Packers. And I believe after this deal, they will be, and this is just doing numbers in my head, about $10 million under the cap. Much needed space, because they need to bring in some folks. One guy in particular, Goot, has some assets to play with. He's got some money under the cap to play with. Those assets, 2 first-round picks. One he got for himself. One he got from New Orleans in that trade in the draft. He also has a newly acquired 6th-round pick because the Packers traded Brett Hundley. And we'll get to that in a second because that was really going to be the main piece of the news today until this one became a definite. He has all the assets. We're talking Brian Gutekunst, Packers GM. He has all the assets to go after Khalil Mack via a trade. If you go and get Khalil Mack is going to be better than anything you could go and grab in the first round. It simply is. Great. You got 2 first-round picks. You should be able to definitely reload your team with those 2 first-round picks. It's not an exact science. The draft never is, but you should be able to. But you have a guy who's proven on the field and with an aggressive, disciplined defense like the one Mike Pettin runs. You're talking about a devastating offensive game plan ruiner on your defense at Khalil Mack. You have to think about it. You have all of the assets right there. You have to think about it. And that's not to say that Goot hasn't thought about it. He's been in contact with those guys over in Oakland. He's had discussions, continues to have discussions. But as far as I've heard, nothing is imminent. Nothing is imminent. I hope it gets a little bit closer to being reality. You're talking about a game-changing piece to your defense that takes... Look, the Packers, to me, are always a Super Bowl contender as long as you have the newly signed Aaron Rodgers. Or newly extended, I should say. They're always a Super Bowl contender because of him. But one thing that he's lacked over the years, many, many times, has been a legitimate defense. The one year he really had a legitimate defense was the year they won the Super Bowl. Now, you can argue the 2013 team in the second half, Clay Matthews gets moved inside. That defense took off from there. Ended up collapsing in Seattle in an NFC Championship game. That team very well could have won the Super Bowl. That's how well that defense was playing. They were the best defense in the whole entire second half in the entire NFL. That's even better than that Seattle defense. But I digress. More times than not, Aaron Rodgers has not had a defense. So he can go out there and put up 34 points. But if your defense gives up 35, you lose. And that's been the case. He's gone out there. He's done his job. He's kept the team in the game. He's scored points. And the defense hasn't been able to keep points off the board. Games go to overtime. Aaron Rodgers, a lot of times in those playoff overtime games, did not even get the ball. Never had a chance with the football in his hands. Ever. That's a move you have to think about making. It's great you signed Aaron Rodgers to this mega extension. And again, it's all deserved. It really is. But you got to go and do something on defense. Now, let's talk about their preseason game before we get to Brett Hundley. Preseason game last Friday in Oakland. Speaking of Oakland, 13-6 loss. Brett Hundley started that game. And that offense was impotent. It was impotent. And essentially that was the nail in the coffin. Now, not to say that DeShone Kizer, who is now your backup, and reports are saying that they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks on this roster. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be DeShone Kizer, and it's going to be Boyle. Those 2 guys made it over Hundley. And I'm okay with DeShone Kizer being there. He wasn't that great in Oakland. I believe he went 11 for 23, but neither was Hundley. That offense was just not good. The defense did the job, and those young guys are really starting to get it. Really starting to get it. I love what Jones is doing back there. I love what Alexander is doing back there. Those guys are going to be ball hawking. They're going to be opportunistic. And I'm really ready to see this defense with all the starters in it ratchet up that pressure. See what they do on blitz packages. Because coverage is coming along pretty nicely. I will say that. But I believe that Oakland Raiders game was the true nail in the coffin for Brett Hundley. Now, if you ask me, last season on the field should have been the true nail in the coffin for Brett Hundley. It was awful. It was awful. Awful. No offense to speak of. Shut out 2 times. Turned the ball over frequently. Could not move the offense at all. it was time for him to go. Everyone talks about, oh man, he was so good in preseason and training camp. Well, he's always been good in preseason and training camp. He's always been good there. But has he been good in the regular season? And you got to see 10 plus games of it last season. He was not good. He is not NFL ready. That's not to say that he won't ever be, but currently as it stands, he isn't. You got a guy in DeShone Kizer that was behind him. Longer controllable contract, a better arm, more upside, a little bit more athletic, or a lot more athletic. You have to take your chances in trying to develop him. You saw what you got out of Brett Hundley. And Brett Hundley and DeShone Kizer were kind of in the same situation last season. DeShone Kizer was kind of thrown to the wolves with that awful Cleveland team. Did he do great all the time? No. Did he do horrible all the time? No. He was a rookie as well. He had his ups and downs. But the thing is, he earned that starting spot. He earned it as a rookie. He went out there, he played, he earned it. It's just too bad they didn't have the roster to really complement his skills. Brett Hundley had a far better team than DeShone Kizer did. And he couldn't do crap with it. Could not do a damn thing. So all the people out there that are crying about it, are crying that he got traded, and crying that he got traded for a 6th round pick. Let me tell you something. You all seen the same play from Brett Hundley as the starting quarterback of the Green Bay Packers I did last season. I've broken down the game tape. He does some things well. Sometimes he does a lot of things terribly. There was improvements in some areas this season. There's some areas for improvement this season. But you all saw the same play from him that I did. And it was terrible. So there is no way you're going to be able to tell me you are pissed off that Goot could only get a 6th round pick. You should be thanking the football gods that Goot was able to get a 6th round pick for Hundley, especially after seeing his play as a starting quarterback in the National Football League. It is not NFL ready. And yet he was still able to get a 6th round pick. Because let me tell you the result if he wasn't able to trade him. He would have been cut. And you would have gotten nothing. And a 6th round pick is a lot better than nothing. You could find some 6th round gems, or you could package that pick to go and get something else. The point is, as a general manager, you're supposed to be looking for areas to improve this team and ways in which to improve it. Make this roster the best it could possibly be to go after world championships. That is your job as a general manager. When you have the chance to get anything for an asset, you have to be realistic about what that asset is. Brett Hundley, and this is generous, was worthy of a 6th round pick. People forget where he was drafted. He was drafted in the 5th round. There was a time where everybody thought he was going to go in the 1st. He slid down to the 5th. So I don't know what the complaint is. You can't have it both ways. You can't be pissed off, bitch, and moan when he's on the field, not moving this offense, not putting any points up, which happened a bunch last season. But then on the flip side, you go and trade him and you get a 6th round pick and you're mad that they only got a 6th round pick. You can't do that. And I'm not going to allow that to fly. Not going to allow that to fly. Be thankful they got something for Brett Hundley. Be thankful that a team was willing, and the team is the Seattle Seahawks, was willing to give a 6th round pick. Because truth is, that's just where his talent and his results on the field are. They are a 6th round caliber. I can't believe people are actually complaining about that. Can't believe people are actually complaining about that. But, you can't make everybody happy. But I'll tell you who is happy. Aaron Rodgers in that 4-year, $134 million extension, $57.5 million signing bonus, which they'll be able to stretch out over the next, I believe, 5 or 6 seasons. So that's really going to be pretty cap friendly. And I know that was a big worry. Everybody was worried about it. But again, I told you for weeks, it was about language and structure. Once they got that in tow, they made the deal. Deal's been made. They got all the structure and the language correct. Aaron Rodgers is happy. Packers Nation is going to be happy. All over the world, they're going to be happy because Aaron Rodgers is going to be sticking around for another 6 years. Continuing on State of the State, we have to welcome back the Wisconsin Badgers football team. Badger season begins this Friday against Western Kentucky. There is a lot of national respect being shown to the Badgers early on in the season. It's not something I'm accustomed to seeing. I'm accustomed to seeing them getting disrespected constantly, not giving them the credit for what they've done. Paul Chryst has led this program into being very much a national power. Now, I'm not going to say it's on the likes of an Alabama, but they're right on par. You look at their win-loss record. I believe there's something like 37-5 over the last, 3-4 seasons? Some absurd number. It's right up there with the Alabamas. It's right up there with the Clemsons. They're right up there with them. Preseason poll, Badgers are number 4. I did not expect them to be in the top 5. I will be 100% honest with you. Lee Corso, ESPN, Game Day, picked them to win the national championship. Lee Corso picked the Wisconsin Badgers to win the national championship. Now, look, who doesn't love Lee Corso? I think we all love the guy. He's zany, but he's very, very smart. But he's kooky. I'm going to pump the brakes on that national championship prediction. I have too many questions. First of all, your two leading receivers, especially the one of note, Quintez Cephas, suspended. He's got some legal troubles going on, some alarming legal troubles. Who are you going to get to replace him? You lost Troy Fumagalli, an All-American tight end. Who are you going to get to replace him? Now, Jonathan Taylor, hey, it's running back you. That's what Wisconsin is. Running back and offensive lineman you. That's what they are. The offensive line is going to be A+. Have no worries about them. They were recently on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Jonathan Taylor, Heisman candidate. I believe a lot of experts and pundits have him ranked behind Bryce Love of Stanford. Those two are 1-2 in predictions early on. Will he break another record? I don't know if he'll break the sophomore record for rushing yards as he did last season when he broke the record for rushing yards by a freshman, a record that belonged to Adrian Peterson. I don't know if he'll have another season like that, and he kind of snuck up on people. He's not sneaking up on anybody now. Is Hornibrook any better? Are we going to see the Hornibrook that played in the Orange Bowl all season long? Or are we going to see the Hornibrook that played in the Big Ten championship against Ohio State? Is that the Hornibrook we're going to see all season? That's a guy that's going to have to take a gigantic step forward. So that's why that's part of the reason why I have such trepidation about these guys being number 4 in the preseason rankings. Lee Corso predicting these guys to win a national championship. And I didn't even get to the defense. Jim Leonard's defense is missing 7 guys. They lost 7 starters from last season from the nation's top defense, or one of the top defenses in the nation. That's not an easily replaceable thing. He's going to have whatever guys he has flying around the field, but can they be as good this season as they have been the last few seasons, but especially last year? It's just part of the questions I have about this Badgers crew. But we're going to get our first real look at them in actual game action again Friday against Western Kentucky. I'm looking for the Badgers to win that game. I'm not looking for a whole lot of questions to be answered. It's the first game of the year. But I'm looking for them to win that game, and I'm looking for things to become a little bit more clear as to what they're going to do defensively. Who's going to have to step up offensively? Is Hornibrook going to be that guy that takes the major leap forward that can then put this team in national championship contention? It's going to be interesting to watch this unfold over the next several months, but I can't wait for Friday. Friday is looking real nice, man. College football, welcome back. Let's continue on State of the State and head over to the Milwaukee Brewers. I had to take a deep breath because, they have been angering me. They've been angering me very much. They lost to the Reds 9-7 just last night. They're only 5-5 in their last 10 games. Where you have teams that like the Cubs who are 20-8 over the last, or some absurd number over the last few weeks. And the Cardinals have won like 16. They've gone like 16-8 or some absurd number. And then you have the Brewers who are like 10-13 over the last 23. This is not going to get the job done. They currently hold a half-game lead over the Colorado Rockies for the second wild card in the National League. Stop me if you've heard this scenario before. Brewers jump out. They get out to a great start, are in first place a majority of the season. Then either the Cubs or the Cardinals get hot. For a small time period, it was the Pirates. But either the Cubs or Cardinals get hot. They overtake those spots. The Brewers slide down into a wild card lead. Then they slip down to the second wild card. And all of a sudden, they slip their behinds right out of the playoff picture completely and are sitting at home watching postseason baseball as opposed to participating in it. This reads like 2014. This reads like 2017. And now 2018 is looking like a carbon copy of both of those years. David Stearns has confidence in the pitching, even though his pitchers have not gotten the job done. And those stats that I talked about earlier, the 20-8 by the pitchers for the Cubs and like the 16-8 by the Cardinals, Brewers pitching is 10-13 with an ERA over 5 over the last few weeks. That's just not good enough. That's not going to get the job done. But Stearns still believes in this pitching staff. And it's not to say that I don't. I mean, he still feels that this pitching staff is good enough and they're going to get on a hot streak. Well, time's running out. September begins Saturday. It's crunch time. If you got a hot streak in you, you need to bring it out now. Because your playoff spot is not assured. I pretty much waved bye-bye at the Central Division because I don't think they're going to come back and win that. I don't think the Brewers are going to come back and win that. I believe currently they're 4.5 games behind the Cubs. The Cardinals are ahead of them in the NL Central. You're now the third place team. So you're talking about a team that spent a majority of the season in first place and are now sitting there in third looking up at two teams. Teams that were struggling in the offset of the season when you were thriving. And now the tables have turned. Hell, the Cardinals fired their manager and have played much better baseball ever since. I can't pinpoint. I mean, it's like I said a couple of weeks ago on this program. Council has taxed this bullpen out. And now the starters are having incredibly short starts this time of the year. And when that happens, you definitely need your bullpen. Now, a 15-inning outing is not helping anyone. And the Brewers did have that last week. But that's one instance. You've been taxing this bullpen all year. There was going to come a time within this year where you're going to need to lean on your bullpen to get you to the finish more times than not. And that's happening right now. Another short start just yesterday by the starter. You had to lean on your bullpen. And it took a while for that offense to get going. You know, Yelich is doing his thing. Kane is doing his thing. You know, Braun's been hitting a lot better. You know, Aguilar is still a little bit frustrating, still swinging at outside pitches and being hesitant on swinging on pitches that are in his wheelhouse. But that's been the story of this offense all year. They've been highly inconsistent. You have games where they could put up 6, 7, 8, 9 runs, you know, or double-digit runs. And then you have games where they don't put up anything. Or they put up 1 or 2 runs. And with a taxed bullpen and a starting rotation that's now starting to go shorter and shorter, you're starting to see the struggle. 5-5 in their last 10. And I'm surprised they're 5-5 in their last 10. Feels like it's much worse. It feels that way because so many other teams are playing better baseball than them, and 2 of them are within the same division, Cubs and Cardinals. 2 teams that you're looking up at. So if you've got a hot streak, and David Stearns, if you've got a move you need to make to help this bullpen or to help this starting rotation. It needs to happen now. Trade deadline for waiver is this Friday. September begins Saturday. So if you have anything up your sleeve, if you got a hot streak left in you, if you got a move you need to make, those need to happen now. You're clinging to a half-game lead for the second wild card in the National League, and there is competition for that. Rockies and Phillies, Dodgers. There's competition for it. You are not assured of going to the playoffs. Not that you ever are, but you have to take stock and take heed of where you are, how your team is playing. You can't sit there and hope for a hot streak. Guys have to go out there and perform. Council's got to go out there and manage. It's got to make better decisions. But if you got anything in you, any hot streaks, any moves, any acquisitions, those need to be made right now. Your playoff life depends on it. So that's the state of the state. Aaron Rodgers secured the bag, 4-year, $134 million deal, $57.5 million on a signing bonus, $103 million guaranteed. The contract and coinciding with the last 2 years that he had on his remaining contract equals the richest contract in NFL history and could be worth upwards of $176 to $180 million. Congrats to him. He's a Packer for life, essentially. The Badgers begin their season. Lee Corso's picking them to win the national championship. I'm telling you to pump your brakes. They begin their season this Friday, Western Kentucky. And the Brewers are clinging to their playoff lives by a half game for the second wildcard spot in the National League. David Stearns, if you got to move, you need to make it now. Brewers, y'all better start on that hot streak right now. Your playoff lives depend on it. Coming up on Toss, we have to run a toss sweep. And somebody asked Tiger Woods a question. It's just really unfortunate that he answered it. We'll get into that coming up on the toss sweep next. TossNationMedia.com is your home for the Toss brand of sports. That's this very program, Nutritional Sports Show, that you're listening to. And thank you for that. That's the Toss blog, the blog that accompanies this show, as well as Tossed Up, the segments returning very, very soon. All that and more can be found only on TossNationMedia.com. Welcome back to Toss, everybody. It's your main man, T-Squared, Tristain Thomas, and it's time for us to run the Toss sweep. When you stick a microphone to somebody's face after their game, and especially if it's been a successful game, they're giddy, they're hyped up, they're amped up, you're gonna get some answers. They're gonna feel good. They're gonna feel more apt to talk to you, and that's kind of what happened with Tiger Woods. It's no secret that Tiger Woods has been playing golf with Agent Orange, aka Donald Trump. Somehow a question was asked of him. Okay, and you have every right to ask and answer questions. It's the beauty of this country. You can feel what way you want. You can say what you want. Doesn't always mean that you should say it. So while Tiger is playing golf with that guy, and that's uncomfortable enough, he was asked about his relationship with Donald Trump. And the quotes, I just have such problems with these quotes. They just disturbed me. And this is straight from Eldrick himself. Well, I've known Donald for a number of years. We've played golf together. We've had dinner together. I've known him pre-presidency and obviously during his presidency. Dude, you didn't know him at all. You didn't know him at all. There's been a lot of people duped by this guy. But how can you be duped by him when for over 500 plus days on his presidential campaign trail, he was a bigot, he was a racist, misogynistic, every bad thing, everything that is the polar opposite of what a president should stand for, that was him. He showed that to you. But you think you know him. That's a problem. But that wasn't even the real quote that got me. The real quote that got me was after he was asked about people being threatened by Trump and his policies and all that, and whether people had a problem with him being so chummy and friendly with him. And this was what Eldrick had to say. Well, he's the president of the United States. You have to respect the office. No matter who is in the office, you may like, dislike personality or the politics, but we all must respect the office. Okay, I got a problem with this. Is he the president of the United States? Begrudgingly so. Not my president. He may be yours, but he ain't mine. You have to respect the office. I respect those who respect me. And as I said before, for 500 plus days on his campaign trail, he showed you how racist he was, how much of a bigot he was, how prejudiced he was, how misogynistic he was. Through his policies, you see all that. I don't respect people like that. I don't give a damn what office they're in. He's not respectable. He's disrespecting that office. He's disgracing that office and in turn disgracing this country. This isn't a matter of disliking personality or the politics. His personality is racist. He's a bigot. He's misogynistic. He's prejudiced. That goes against everything that a president should stand for. The president of the United States should be a figure that unites people, but instead he is dividing people. But yet you saying, oh, you could not like their personality or not like their politics. Well, his politics are hurting people all across this nation as well. But see, you wouldn't know anything about that because you go out there and swing a club at a little white ball, put a little hole, and make hundreds of millions of dollars for it. See, you feel like you untouchable again, don't you? You remember when you was groping all them ladies and going to mess around with all those ladies when you had a wife at home? Because you felt you were untouchable. You're Tiger Woods. You bring everybody to the television screens when it's Sunday and you got on your Sunday red. See, you thought you were untouchable until your ex-wife went upside your damn head. Then you decided to go and crash your SUV. Then you decided to go and pop pills and do whatever else. And you had to go and disappear because your game had disappeared. You had disappeared. Now you come back. You've played a little bit better than you have in these past couple of tournaments. You're going to play Phil Mickelson over Thanksgiving weekend for $9 million. It's going to be on pay-per-view everywhere else. You feeling yourself a little bit too much. Nobody asked you. Now, I know people are going to scratch their heads and say, but Tristain, you just said that he was asked these questions. Yeah, he was asked those questions, but nobody asked him. No one I know is sitting on pins and needles wondering, man, what does Eldrick Woods think of this? Oh, I'm sorry, Tiger. What does Tiger think of this? Well, we really need to get his thoughts about this. Nobody gives a damn what you think about this. But since you made it known, you just put yourself on the shit list. You're buddy with him. You're chummy with him. Y'all two peas in a pod because he's out there and he's got a God complex. He thinks he's untouchable. He can go and grope on any girl he wants, get any girl he wants. Guy's been married like 80 million times. Then we come to you. You was out there doing the same damn thing. Groping all these women, messing around with all these women. You had a wife at home. That's why she raked your ass over the coals. I told myself I wouldn't get hype over this subject, but it's just so damn maddening that you don't see him for the person that he actually is and see how many people he's hurting. You may have hurt one person, which is your ex-wife. You may have maybe even hurt your kid. But he's hurting millions of people, including the people with the same hue on their skin color as you. But everything's all good. He's my golf buddy. He's worth billions. I'm worth millions. I'm not affected like that. I don't have to think like that, which is why I wish Tiger would have just stayed gone. Should just stay gone. And nobody should ask them about this because the answer is disappointing. It's disappointing for so many people. And for him to go and show respect to someone that has clearly shown they have no respect for you and people like you tells me one thing. You don't identify yourself as being a part of those minorities. He constantly berates. And for that, you ain't even worth it. This is Toss. All right, y'all, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This has been episode 38 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. I told y'all we'd be back. I just had to go and recharge my batteries. I'm back from vacay. I feel great. Glad to get this episode in the can for you. Hey, you know the website, but I'm going to tell you again. TossNationMedia.com. That's TossNationMedia.com. You know my Twitter and Instagram. At D20double. That's at the number 2, the number 0, and the word double. And you know what's going down on Wednesday nights. You can catch myself and Professor Pete on the Home Court Sports Show on Facebook Live Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Home Court Sports. That's on Facebook.com/Home Court Sports. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T-Squared Tristan Thomas reminding all of you that I'm the one and only. And so are you. Embrace it. Until next week. So long.